I went through and listened to every AC/DC album so you don't have to. And here's what I found out. So, we are starting off with High Voltage. This is the first one they ever put out, the first official release they ever put out. They did put out a few singles before this, but those really don't matter. No one really cares. What we do have on this one is nothing impressive, but is at least something. By far, I think the best song on this entire album has got to be Soul Stripper. It's got really nice groove to it. I like the cowbell. This fucking trading solos go hard as fuck. I mean, you get to hear Angus and Malcolm, the brothers, solo back and forth. It's fucking sick. You have Baby Please Don't Go and Show Business, which are almost as good, but I think they are lacking a little bit. Speaking of lacking, we have Little Lover, which, this one is pretty rough. It's creepy, it's full of boomer energy. It references Gary Glitter. Yeah. But that's not even the worst song on here. The worst one by far, well, not by far, by a little bit, has got to be Love Song, Oh Gene. Think of a band like AC/DC doing a ballad. Yeah, it sounds about as good as you would expect. This is by far one of the worst songs this band has ever put out. And that is saying a lot compared to the shit we would get in the more modern era albums. One part I do like, at least, is the intro of the whole song. It's pretty cool. It starts off like it's gonna go into something a lot better than it actually does, and it's just so cheesy. It is fucking the rest of the song, and it's so heartfelt and sentimental. Imagining Bon Scott singing this is just hilarious. This album was kind of a total miss. Not entirely, there are a few good tracks, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 45 out of 100. Here's the track ratings for each track, and on to the next one. So, next up we have TNT, which is the second Australian album they ever released. There are also a few songs on here that show up on later American releases, but for the sake of continuity, I'm going to start off with the Australian albums and then eventually move into the international releases. So on this album, there is only one song that I liked enough to want to actually listen to again. That is going to be Rocker, which is playing right now. This song is full of energy. I love the simplicity of it. It just works perfectly. The reason that it does work is it is simple and it is fast. If this song was at least a little bit slower, I would not enjoy it quite as much. But just all of that energy, especially if you listen to live recordings of this song, it's just great. The worst part of this album is there is a lot of just cheap novelty songs like The Jack, stomach churning. TNT, that's another song I used to love when I was younger, but damn, it just sounds worse and worse the more I listen to it, especially now that I'm older. Rock and Roll Singer is another one I used to like, but it really just lost the appeal for me. Every damn song on here is some variation of the 12-bar blues. You can only do that so much before it gets old. This thing is definitely a mixed bag and only the slightest improvement ever from the last one. So really nothing memorable at all here. Still a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 48 out of 100. Here is the track ratings. And yeah, on to the next one. So, we've arrived at part 3, that is going to be Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Again, the Australian version, not the international one that didn't come out till 1981 for some reason. So there is one song that I really like off of here. It's going to be Problem Child. That one is just fucking full of attitude. It's got a great solo as well. There is a fair share of bad songs on here. Ain't No Fun Waiting Around to Be a Millionaire. If you ever wanted a song that's, I don't know how fucking long is it, but it's just the same fucking riff almost the entire song with some chords variation thrown in, there you go. If you want some of the creepiest fucking lyrics you've ever heard, Squealer. Even that title makes me cringe. The worst one by far has got to be Big Balls. As far as the lyrics on here, they are creepy once again with a hint of misogyny this time. Fantastic. And yeah, this is definitely them still trying to find their sound and failing. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this thing a 47 out of 100. And here's the track ratings once again. And yep, next up we do have Let There Be Rock. This is the 4th album from this band. There is 2 really good songs on here that I scored even above a 70, which I've never done before so far. That's going to be Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, the second best. The fucking verse riff is so simple yet so effective, and I love those huge chords during the chorus. It's just amazing. My favorite has got to be Whole Lotta Rosie. Angus just goes fucking crazy on the solo. I mean, it's just nuts. And I love the guitar tone. It sounds razor sharp is the best way to describe it. There are definitely a few bad songs. Well, kind of weaker ones. There's only one really bad one. It's a blues song about getting crabs. Besides that, we have the title track, Let There Be Rock. We have Overdose. That one's pretty fun, but kind of grew off of me as time went by. Bad Boy Boogie. There's one song on here, Go Down. You can probably guess what it's about from the title. But this song would be pretty good if it wasn't for the edging interlude in the middle where we have to hear Bond fucking moan and groan for like, I don't know, like half a minute. So, yeah. This album I think is actually a little bit of an improvement. I'm going to give it a 65 out of 100. And here's all the track ratings. And that's going to be it for that one. So we have Powerage, or Powerage, however the fuck you say it. This one, I think, is tied with the next one as their best album they've ever put out. And it still didn't even score a 70. But anyways, the best song on here is actually the best song they've ever written, in my opinion. It's going to be Riff Raff. The whole song is just the best representation ever of what this band can achieve. And say what you want about Angus Young's guitar solos, but this one is actually pretty difficult. I'm not going to say it's like anything crazy, but it's pretty hard, especially when it comes to this band. That is a solo that it still gives me trouble. My second favorite is probably the most basic on here, but it has such a fun, simple groove. Rock and Roll Damnation. My least favorite is a tie between Down Payment Blues, What's Next to the Moon, and Kicked in the Teeth. Some other notable ones, I'm going to say Sin City, the classic, Gone Shooting. I really think the more relatable lyrical approach that we're going on here was really genuine, and it really works well. Like Bond's storytelling on here is great. The bass lines are also pretty awesome on this one. I couldn't bring myself to give this a 70 because I don't think any of the band's albums are in that level of greatness all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 68 out of 100. And here is the track ratings once again. Alright, and that's going to be it for Powerage. Next we have Highway to Hell. This one is the last one ever with Bon Scott. It has some of Bon Scott's best vocals ever, and it's really kind of a swan song, and it's just beautiful. Some of his vocals on here, and this is some of the last performances he would ever give. It is actually the last performances he would ever give when it comes to studio recordings. Unfortunately, Bon did pass away shortly after the release of this album, although they did tour for it. I really love the clean production on here and the fucking amazing vocals. My favorite song is actually a tie for two. It's going to be Touch Too Much and If You Want Blood, You've Got It. Just all around great riffing. My least favorite is going to be Love Hungry Man. Even though it's got a great bass line, it's just kind of cheesy. If you know me, I really do not like cheesy stuff at all. Three other notable ones are Girls Got Rhythm, Walk All Over You, and Shot Down in Flames. Also Night Prowler. That is a little bit of a controversial one, but yeah. I'm going to actually give this the same score as the last one. I think they are equally as good. It's going to be a 68 out of 100. And here's the track ratings. Alright, that's going to be it for that one. Next up, we have Back in Black, which is the tribute album to Bon Scott. And quite honestly, I feel bad that this is the tribute that the man got after everything he gave to the band. This is what he gets. Now, this album, I understand why a lot of people love it. It's got great production, it's got huge sounds, it's really important for Bon Scott's legacy, and there is actually some rumors that Bon Scott's ghost came to the new vocalist Brian Johnson and gave him lyrics to write, which I think is kind of stupid. But the lyrics on this thing are just awful. Not only misogynistic, but kind of rapey at times as well. Especially with gems such as Let Me Put My Love Into You. I feel just gross saying that song title. Yeah, can we get the police over? It's like... very uncomfortable to listen to. Or even giving the dog a bone. Let's just get blatant misogyny in here. Why don't we just call women dogs? And then there is some boomer cringe shit like Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, Back in Black. Two that I actually do like off of here. Well, like is a strong statement. Hell's Bells and Shoot to Thrill are the two strongest. I still wouldn't even give them a 60 out of 100, but they're decent at least, almost. So yeah, I think this album is sadly very, very overrated. I wish Bon Scott would have gotten a better tribute, because this one is just not it. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a 47 out of 100. And yeah, here's the track ratings. Alright, that's going to be it for that one. Next up, just when you think it couldn't get any worse, we have For Those About to Rock. With that title alone, you know we're in for something special. Not really. You have to admit the production on this one is even better and huge, and everything sounds larger than life and polished down to fucking shit. But for a band like this, if everything sounds too polished, that can sometimes work to its dismay, because they really work best off of their raw sound. Somehow, the lyrics have gotten even worse on this one overall, with songs like Let's Get It Up and Put the Finger on You. Kid named Finger. We have songs like Snowballed and Spellbound, which are almost as good as something I would want to listen to again. My favorite song off of here has got to be Evil Walks, which is actually genuinely a good song off of this monstrosity. The verse riff is really cool. It utilizes that minor 7 shape that the Rolling Stones masturbate over, but it uses it in a really cool way. I love the huge chorus. It's just great. Some of the songwriting on here sounds surprisingly mature. For example, the chords that they use in Spellbound are actually pretty unique, especially for AC/DC. Also, one song I wanted to talk about, Night of the Long Knives, is pretty much Dr. Feelgood before Dr. Feelgood, at least with that main riff, but that's a discussion for another time. When it comes to this album, however, I'm going to give it a 44 out of 100, and here's the track ratings. Alright, and that's going to be about it for this one. Would you believe me if I said it got even worse? Well, it did. Next up, we have Flick of the Switch. You can even tell from that low quality fucking shit artwork that they did not care at all on this one. Everything sounds so stripped down and bare bones that it's barely a fucking album. The songwriting is even more simple. That wouldn't be a problem if this band didn't already do extremely simple songs to begin with. The riffs and the solos on here are generic as ever. There are so many weak points, and the simple approach does not work in their favor at all. A lot of the riffs are just a snooze fest. There is one almost good song here, which is Guns for Hire. Some of the least notable ones are This House is on Fire, Bedlam in Belgium, Badlands, Brain Shake, and Deep in the Hole. This one, if you never listened to it in your life, you would not be missing very much. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 31 out of 100, and here's the track ratings. Okay, so that's going to be it for this one. Next up, we have Fly on the Wall. This one gets at least a little bit better, but you have to think, we are talking about the standards of a 31 out of 100 album for the last one. So, yeah. Fun fact, I actually have a shirt with this album's artwork on it that I got from Walmart, I believe. But yeah, this album is really nothing impressive at all. One thing I really do like is the guitar riffs on here. They are great sometimes. Sometimes they're awful, but wow. When they work, they really work. The detriment of this album has got to be the production. Everything is mixed horribly. There's way too much fucking reverb on everything. The bass is totally buried. If you think Injustice for All had low bass, try finding a bass line in this album. The absolutely atrocious production, horrible songwriting, and terrible mixing makes this an end result you will not enjoy at all. There is one song that I almost enjoy enough to want to listen to again. It's going to be Playing with Girls. The riffs are just so fun sounding, and I love the lead guitar work as well. Some of the least notable ones here are going to be Send for the Man, Stand Up, Danger, which is one of the corniest songs they've ever done, and Fly on the Wall, the title track. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 36 out of 100. And here's the track ratings. Alright, that's going to be it for Fly on the Wall. Next up we have Blow Up Your Video. More like blow up your mixing board, because the production is fucking... The terrible production on this one does not really make sense at all, because this was produced by George Young and Harry Vanda, who also worked on Power Age. So why does this sound so shit? Did they just not care anymore at all? Probably. I think this is one of the only albums where my favorite part of each song was the verse riff. I don't know what they were on when writing the verse riffs, but they're all so good on this album. It's too bad the rest of the songs here, besides the verse riff, are just bad. Brian Johnson's vocals, if you can call it that, sounds like they were recorded in a goddamn cave in the Mariana Trench. He was just out of the studio in the other room. And oh my god, don't get me started on the lyrics again here. We have gems like Go Zone, This Means War, Some Sin for Nothing, and the worst one, Rough Stuff, spelled like this for some ungodly reason. Once again, there is one song that was an outlier but still not good. That's going to be the opening track, Heat Seeker. It's just very fun, but it's still lacking in a few departments that I just can't look past. With all that being said, I'm going to give this a 38 out of 100. Here's the track ratings. And on to the next album. Surprised, they got worse. A lot worse. And they couldn't even bother to put a fucking apostrophe in the album's title. I don't know how something as blatant as that gets past the record label, but whatever the fuck. The large majority of this album is just forgettable, generic arena rock at its finest. There is one song that I actually enjoyed off of this one. That's going to be the title track, which is the closest this band ever got to writing something metal. I love the sinister tones of it. The guitar work is fucking amazing. The lead work is something totally out of this world and something Angus has like never done before. But when it comes to the cheese factor, it's just been turned up to fucking 900,000. Also, I want to say about Thunderstruck, I know it's a very important song in rock history, but if I hear this fucking song one more time my entire life, I'm going to grab some type of sharp object and fucking brain matter. Yeah, so getting back to the album, some of the worst songs on here are going to be Fire Your Guns, Mistress for Christmas, which is about Donald Trump, Got You by the Balls, Goodbye and Good Riddance to Bad Luck, long ass song title, If You Dare, and the worst one, the fucking crown jewel shit, Let's Make It. Do not listen to this song unless you enjoy audio torture. With all that being said, this album is going to get a crisp 25 out of 100. Yeah, it's that bad. And here's the track ratings. Alright, and on to the next one. Somehow, they get even worse. Ball Breaker. Just from that title alone, you can tell we're in for a fucking treat. The fucking guitar tone on this album has got to be the most dull, dry, dead, flat thing I've ever heard in my entire life. This shit sounds like it's hanging on by a measly signal, and it has no balls whatsoever, despite the title being Ball Breaker. Another thing that's really a shame is this fucking badass album cover went to waste on this fucking abomination. The artwork really gives you the feeling you're gonna hear something electrifying that's gonna fucking break your balls, whatever the fuck. However, if you listen to the actual album, it sounds like a bunch of goddamn geriatric senile motherfuckers. This is a project that will either have you falling asleep because you're fucking bored to tears, or just laughing at the increasingly excruciating, terrible lyrics. The songwriting is at the laziest point I've ever heard from this band. This album has not even one good song, not even one decent song, not even one salvageable song. It is just terrible. The highest score I gave any song on this album was a 35. The worst two are gonna be Boogeyman and Love Bomb. God fucking damn. God damn! So, with all that being said, I'm gonna give this thing a 20 out of 100. Oh. Here's the track ratings. And yeah, we're gonna move on to the next one now. So I have some bad news to report to you all watching this video. It gets worse. I don't know how, but it gets fucking worse. Stiff Upper Lip is the 14th album from this band, as if the world needed fucking 14 AC/DC albums. The most painful part of this whole album is the quasi-bluesy riffs that are just fucking shoved in your face, and they are extremely terrible and painfully out of style. And the lyrics have went from crude and sexist to just making no fucking sense at all. What is a house of jazz? And what is a satellite blues? How do you have the blues over a satellite? There are at least a few shining moments. Well, if your definition of shining is being as fucking bright as a California Valley girl. Some of the solo work in here is kind of tasty, I have to admit. My favorite, well, I put favorite in quotes because my favorite song on here got a 30 out of 100 individual rating. Has got to be Can't Stand Still. That song is pretty fun to play with the finger picking or hybrid picking, whatever technique, and I love the solo. It's pretty tasty. Some of the worst abominations on here are going to be Meltdown, House of Jazz, Hold Me Back, Safe in New York City. Safe in New York City. That aged really badly. Do not listen to any of these pieces of shit. So, after all that, this is the worst AC/DC album ever. This one kind of barely made it into the double digits. This one gets a nice 17 out of 100. You heard me right, 17. And here's the track ratings in case you cared at all, even though they all suck. And yeah, on to the next one. Next up is 2008's Black Ice. For some ungodly fucking reason, this has 15 songs on it. We do not need a single AC/DC album with 15 of the motherfuckers to sit through. At first, this thing feels like a little bit of an improvement from the last few atrocious albums. However, we very quickly realize this is the same band we're listening to, and they still put out the same level of shit. The songwriting is once again awful and boring and lazy. Even the riffs are weak. This fucking album is packed to the brim with filler. There is one song on here that I can almost sort of kind of tolerate, which is going to be Anything Goes. I love the solo on here. The tremolo picking is really cool, especially hearing that in like the modern era when Angus is a little bit older. You think he wouldn't have as much energy. However, even the decent songs are overshadowed by the terrible pieces of garbage like Decibel, Stormy May Day, She Likes Rock and Roll, Money Made, Rock and Roll Dream, Rocking All the Way, and the worst of all, Wheels. That chorus should be used in Guantanamo Bay. I'm going to give this the same score as I gave one of the other ones, still not very high at all, a 25 out of 100. And here's the track ratings for all fucking 15 of them. Alright, and we have two more. So, second to last here, we have Rock or Bust. This is the 16th album that the band has put out. It came out back in 2014. At this point, all the music these guys are putting out is just geriatric drivel with some terribly cheesy tropes. It is sickeningly apparent that they have just fucking run out of ideas at this point and just keep going just to make more fucking money. Symbolically, this band is running on fumes by this point, with their theoretical car running out of gas very quickly. And at this point, the lyrics are even more creepy, because some of the band members at this point were in like their 60s and 70s, having song titles like Rock the House, Sweet Candy, and Emission Control. There is one song that I actually did like the main riff, but I did not like the whole song. That's going to be Baptism by Fire. The main riff with the single notes is pretty creative and pretty cool. And I do like the harmony guitar that joins in. However, most of this thing is terrible. So I'm going to give this thing a 26 out of 100. Here is the track ratings. And on to the final one. So before we get started with this final part of the review series, I want to give a heartfelt apology to 16-year-old me, because this used to be my absolute favorite band in the world. I'm sorry I didn't see it before, and I'm sorry I'm shit-talking. Anyways, power up. More like power down, am I right? So I want to officially start with the fact that this honestly feels like a part 2 of the last album. However, this one is slightly worse than the last, just by a few points. This thing is the textbook definition of nostalgia bait, and I dare you to tell me otherwise. Also, the lyrics are worse than they have ever been, and I'm not fucking lying. I dare you to read some of these or listen to these on an empty stomach. How about a song like Money Shot, where we have a 70-something-year-old Brian Johnson singing about fucking cooming? These lyrics just sicken me to the core. And I'm so sorry to Malcolm Young, because this album, even though it's a tribute to him, is just fucking bad. Malcolm, I think, was one of the best rhythm guitarists in the world. Rest in peace. But wow, this album is just something else. So bad. Songs like Kick You When You're Down with that goofy "oh no" in the chorus. We have Demon Fire, cool title, but shit song. No Man's Land, Code Red, and yeah, the one I mentioned before, Money Shot. So, I'm going to give their final album a 22 out of 100, 6 Samus reference, and here's the track ratings. I do have to say about this band overall, when they make good music, and the rare occasions that they do, it's pretty fun and enjoyable and groovy and just awesome to listen to and kind of badass at points. But when the music is bad, it is fucking bad. It is terrible. It is some of the worst shit you would ever hear, and it's hard to believe that some people listen to some of this shit. But I do want to finish this whole thing off by saying that this band is undeniably one of the progenitors of the huge power chord sound, the huge open chord sound, the groovy sound, the basic simplistic sound. There are so many bands that came after them that were just trying to copy them, and they did definitely have something unique in that aspect, but most of the times they did not utilize that well and mostly came out with really disappointing results. So as an overall rating for the average of all the albums, I'm going to give them a 40 out of 100. My favorite album was a tie between Power Age and Highway to Hell. Even though both of them weren't necessarily great, they were the best they ever put out, and my least favorite is going to be Stiff Upper Lip. Alright, thanks for watching. I'm probably going to do another one of these very soon, but this is the first band I ever went through on my Album of the Year page. I'll leave a link to that below as well if you want to go follow me on there. And yeah, more videos to come soon. Thanks.